Welcome to the Moms I Know with Sheila Walsh-Denton and Maria Anderson-Farner. Two moms on a mission to reclaim childhood and take you from surviving to thriving on your parenting journey.
Behind every strong woman are more strong women, by Dr. Caroline Heldman.
Hi, this is Sheila.
And this is Maria.
And we want to welcome you to the Moms I Know. We are super excited because this is episode 30 of the Moms I Know. And we are saying that this is our last episode of season 1. And we are so looking forward to season 2. But this one is a real special one.
It certainly is. We started our entire podcast with this concept of self-care, this foundation of healthy family life is when mom's okay, everybody's okay. But we're really coming around full circle to this whole concept of how we all need to be in community together. That one of our strengths is that we know how to reach out to other women. We're there for other women. And so this quote, I just recently heard Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say it, as she's heading into Congress. And so it was just powerful to look at this whole concept of, as women are rising, as we're stepping into speaking our truths, that we really are here for each other as women and then as mothers helping each other.
Yeah, it's really key that we see each other. Our experiences we have common experiences. I remember when I first gave birth to my first son in 2002, and right as he was, came through the birth canal, and realizing that, oh my gosh, number one is like, I can't believe I did that and how much pain that was, and that people have been doing this for thousands of years and they actually have more children. But that common experience of that, we're warriors. Women are warriors. No matter how you give birth, you gave birth. And I really believe that we, once we pass that threshold, we're on this, we have a common experience. We have a shared experience.
Yeah, the journey of motherhood. And, this whole concept of when we started with this self-care, how do we take care of ourselves? I've really been doing so much reading and researching and talking to so many women. And what I really see, this common thread is that we're here for each other. And that when things really get tough, I see moms that are in isolation. I see moms that aren't reaching out and asking for help. And I see this struggle. And then I think back to all those kitchen table discussions or those workplace discussions or the walks with another mom. And that's where we walk, we talk, we process, we work through all of these things. We hear each other's struggles. And I think that is, I know guys do that too, but not in the same way, to the same depth. And I think that's one of the powerful things about being a woman is that we do have this emotional quotient, this EQ, that we can really work together in community. And so when we're looking at this idea of self-care, we started with, what is your joy list? What are the things that you love to do? What are the things that make sure your well is full so that you have it to give to others? And nowadays, I'm really looking at this, how do we support each other?
Yes, I really, right now, I've been going through a more challenging time, and it's hard to show that vulnerability of that things are hard for me, whether it's the comparison, whether I'm looking on social media and I'm comparing myself to somebody in business wise, or I'm comparing somebody's output, to my output. And we all have different timelines. We all have different experiences, but yet, by voicing mine, by sharing it with you, by sharing it with my girlfriends, I always feel so much better, and so right now it's just like, I was sick last week and then coming back to work, it's like I'm overwhelmed in work right now, but yet it's okay. It's like just baby steps. It will be okay. But sometimes it just feels so alone,
Mm-hmm. Well, ultimately, we come into the world alone, we end the world alone, and we're in our own heads all the time. So we have that, that monologue with ourselves, or dialogue with ourselves, to however you want to look at it. But just this whole concept of when we reach out, when we serve others, that truly fulfills us. And so sometimes when we're at our absolute lowest, when we get out and help somebody else, that's when it can help us feel better, as well as the fact that we're helping that other person. So this whole concept of, I've talked to so many people who, when they're struggling with a divorce or death or, losing a job or moving or whatever, and they could wallow in their own stuff, but when they reach out to somebody else who's in need, that lifts them out of that. And so I really feel as if this whole concept of looking at not just self-care, but mama care, woman care, how do we care for ourselves? How do we care for each other is so very key. And when I think of the parenting journey, nowadays, so often we do have access to moms groups or our birth group, if we were doing classes together before the babies are come. And so, we have that, and we have all kinds of classes and groups and networks, but I'm still hearing this isolation in a lot of moms' voices. I'm still hearing this, am I the only one that's going through this? And I remember when my kids were little, I did feel like, am I the only one that is dealing with this? And you spoke to that so beautifully, that, women have been doing this for eons. And it is an amazingly difficult journey. It's also an amazingly rewarding journey. And yet when we can just open up to that shared experience. I was just writing my monthly little musings for my website, and I was thinking back to, when I had my children, especially my first son, I had learned all kinds of new things, and I kind of figured that I had all the answers, and I was going to be this independent supermom, and I was going to do it my way. And I don't think I listened to my mother and my grandmother as much, or my aunts, or, wise women as much. It was like I was just kind of coming from this intellectual place, or this place of, I'm going to do things a little differently. And I look back on that now and I think, oh, what a waste, because I wasn't accepting so much of that wisdom. And so now here I am in this stage of being a mom and a grandmother, and wanting to help young women, and sometimes seeing that there is this, oh, I know better, I'm going to do it my way. And so I really want to invite young moms of any age, to open up to this. What can I hear? What can I learn? And so I was writing about the fact that I spend a lot more time now talking to my mom and listening to her and asking for her advice and for her perspective on things, because I think that it's so valuable. And the other thing is, it's not going to be around forever. And so I want to make sure that I get all of that. So that's been really front and center for me lately.
Yeah, I think it comes with the wisdom of your age. As we age, we open up more. We're able to realize that we can't do this alone, and we appreciate those voices of our elders. It's funny you say whether when you had your baby, you were a little bit more closed off to input, and I think most new moms really are. I think they would rather trust their peers than their own mom. And I don't know why, because obviously your own mother has done it and can offer you a wealth of information, but we choose to do it on our own, whether it's we have to prove something, right?
I think, that's a really interesting concept. I think, we're going to have to explore this much more, this whole concept of mothers and daughters. I feel as if there's so much there. And also this idea of generational healing, because what I'm really learning is that we all have these childhood wounds, and we're all carrying stuff, whether it was that we didn't get something that we wanted, or that we had major trauma, however the continuum, we have those childhood wounds. And so when we have our own children, we can choose to parent differently than we were parented, or we can take what we got. I was so fortunate. I had, amazing parents and grandparents, and a lot of love and a lot of really good guidance. So there was just that, what I already knew, but then there were lots of new things that I wanted to incorporate, and things that I wanted to do differently, or things that I wanted to do deeper, that's more kind of intentional parenting. It was a different generation as well from my mother and my grandmother. But that idea that we had something to prove, I think is really key there, that we could do it our way, or that we didn't have to ask for that help. Whereas I think in generations past, it was just part of it. And in a lot of other cultures now, I think there's just that acceptance that mothers, mother-in-laws, grandparents, they're going to have that shared wisdom. And whether we're ready or not, I was talking with a friend of my sister's, and she was saying that she had an acquaintance whose mother-in-law had come and, didn't really give a choice as to what was going to happen after the baby was born. And that she was able to just accept that. And so I think we sometimes have that rebel streak that we want to do things differently.
Yeah. You said something and it made me think of Dr. Shefali Saberi, who
Mm-hmm.
was a psychologist. And, one thing she said of her work with children started as she was seeing adults and realizing that, most adults, the majority of the adults are coming in on her and sitting on her couch and talking about childhood, and when she kept seeing that, she's just like, so obviously we need to relook at childhood. We need to parent differently. We need to parent from that full well, and we need to look at our own wounds of childhood so that we don't repeat them.
Mm-hmm.
And when I actually picked up The Awakened Family before The Conscious Parent.
Mm-hmm.
And when I picked that up, I read through the first part of the book, and it was okay. And as I started getting more into it, I could only read a page or two at a time before I would start crying.
Mm.
I remember reading pages with my son right beside me, and he's my firstborn, and just saying, I'm so sorry. Really saying that I'm sorry. I understood that I parented you. I parented you from with what I knew, how I thought it should be, when in actuality, I was not doing anybody any favors. I was not growing. He was not growing. And so by reading her book, The Awakened Family, I was really able to heal myself. And that's what I know. We've talked about this before with parenting, and it is a spiritual journey, and we need to look for our teachers ever more so, and it's just like, here you are, Maria, you have your children, I believe, are 30 and 32.
31 and 33 now.
31 and 33. And it's just like, you're still fully parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It doesn't change. I mean, and so it's just like, when we embark on this role, it's just, we will always be parents.
Mm-hmm.
And how are we showing up? How are we taking action? Because that's the other piece, is that, to get yourself to self-care, to get yourself out of those, I don't want to say the boxes that you put yourself in, but you have to take action. You have to take action that has intention.
Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what we're talking about here, is that instead of it being one more thing that we have to do, because I think as mothers, we have so much, I don't want to say guilt, but, we want to do things right, or we want to do things the best we can. And then we realize, oh my gosh, we didn't really do what we could have done. And so this whole concept of deepening our consciousness around it, but it's a dance. It's a never ending dance, and we can always be striving. And, I'm also a stepmother. And so I became, I came into my stepson's life when he was 4. So I've been, working with my own children, my stepson, my own children now for a very long time. It's over 40 years. And looking at their own needs and knowing that we met some, we didn't meet all. Now the next generation is coming along, and I see everybody striving, and it's messy. It's not always perfect. There's no right answers. And so that's why we're talking about this whole encouraging women to reach out to, when looking at this concept of self-care, instead of one more thing that I have to do for myself, how can I reach out and ask for the help that I need? And whether that's getting a mentor. It's so interesting. I'm really having these discussions. I'm starting my program in February, having these discussions about trying to explain to mothers why they should invest in themselves, why they should invest in having a mentor, having a consultant, having a coach to help them along the way. Because we don't always talk to our own mothers. Some of us do, some of us don't, or aunts or wise women or whatever. But we don't have parenting classes in school. There's obviously parenting classes available as we start our families, but they're few and far between, and they're kind of surface. They kind of talk about like the basics of parenting. They don't talk about that middle of the night when you're, soul searching and you're exhausted and you're not quite sure exactly what to do type of a thing. And can you dig down any deeper and find the patience that you need? we don't talk about those things in those surface classes. And so this whole conversation about how do we reach out to each other, how do we make sure we have our community of women is so very important. And, I really encourage women to have local community, women that they can call up at any time. And, just like you were talking earlier today, that you dropped everything to go help this friend with something that she needed. Of course, we're going to do that. And then also these deeper mentors, whether it's, listening to podcasts like ours or reading books like Dr. Shivali's, or, looking at different coaching programs for mothering, that we ask for the help that we need. We don't think that we're being weak by that. We're actually being strong by saying, I'm strong enough to take care of myself and ask for the help that I need.
I like that. I'm strong enough to ask for the help I need. My friend asked me to pick her up earlier today, and she didn't realize it, but I needed her more than she needed me. It's just like, because I've been in a bit of a funk, and just having her, just picking her up and driving to her house, 15 minutes. But she just is like, you're okay, Sheila, you're going to be just fine. And it's true. I am fine. I know that, but you get in your own muck,
Mm-hmm.
So it's just like, how do you need to kind of have a toolkit of how to get yourself out of the muck, and that toolkit should be, like you said, like your friends, your podcast, your exercise, what are those little actions, those little baby steps that can get you thinking forward and not stuck in the muck.
Mm-hmm. Because we all do it. I've been working with a group of women in my own business coaching, and it's so interesting. These are very, very intelligent, very entrepreneurial women. And apparently every single one of us still has that self-doubt. We still go back to that, am I good enough? Am I enough to do this business thing that I want to do, or share my gifts with the world? And we need to share those gifts. We need to share with each other, and we need to hear each other. I know Brene Brown talks about this vulnerability piece, and I know we've talked about that as well. But when we share, then we open ourselves up to other people for them to see our humanity and for us to see theirs. And certainly nowadays, when you look at what's happening in our country and around the world, we certainly don't need more polarization or more isolation. We need more communication. We need more finding that common ground. And that comes by reaching out. And when we isolate ourselves with our devices or with our entertainment or our amusement, then we're not really getting to the heart of who we are as human beings and what we can be for our children. So we talk about parenting as a healing journey as well. And I know that I'm so much more of a complete human being, even though I've got so much more to go in terms of striving, than I was before I had children. And I'm so grateful for my stepson, for my son, for my daughter, for my grandsons that are now teaching me every day. And it's such a gift to be able to have that. So we take when you talk about those action steps, whether it's taking a bath with Epsom salts and essential oils, or whether it's getting a massage. I was looking at that sort of idea of the joy list when I started writing about a year ago. And now I'm saying, okay, so let's deepen that a little. What can you do for yourself, but also what can you do for somebody else? Could you offer to watch somebody else's kids so that they could have some time, that me time that mom needs? Could you reach out to that mom that you see struggling at the grocery store, or, that friend that is dealing with something? And could you, if you're making your dinner, could you make 2 and take it? And so, adding this idea of service to our joy list, and this idea of helping others and reaching out beyond our own self-care to be thinking of woman care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when you put you take the attention off of you, and you put it on somebody else, that energy, that focus energy, I think that definitely, it's a shift, and that's what you're looking for, is those little shifts that will, have a bigger impact, for sure. And just, and then being able to receive as well, and share. It's not easy,
No, it's not. And I think that as women, we are givers in general, but then we don't always give as much of ourselves as we could, but then we have that hard time receiving or accepting. And so again, I'm suggesting that we look at this in through a slightly different lens of this whole concept of how can we deepen our relationships with each other so that we're thinking about not only ourselves, but the other person, not only ourselves, but our children. I mean, we can be doing this with our children as well. How many times can we give? I mean, we do give and give and give. I always laugh at talking with, I think my daughter, the kids will take 24/7 and still want more. So we also have to have those boundaries around our own availability. But again, it comes back to this, when we parent from a place of fullness, we're going to be much more available for our children when we're filled up, when we're patient, when we've gotten the sleep that we need. And so, even that, asking somebody to be with your children in the morning so that you can get those extra hours of sleep that you might need to be putting back into the sleep bank. And so just all kinds of ways that we can look at this idea of women helping women.
Yeah, I really think that women, we need to talk more about this. We do need more mentors. We need more women like you and I, Maria, and offering our great coaching programs, and so that they see that it's possible. Because I know that I'm speaking for myself, is that when I was a young mom, I did it all myself. I could because I could do it all myself. And it was the lesson of me getting sick in 2009 and in my healing crisis of that rock bottom of realizing that if I didn't receive help, I might not be here. It's like I had to receive help. And so what if we look at it a little bit differently of like, how can we teach moms to, I don't know, is it to give more or to, it's to receive more? Like, how can we normalize moms helping moms?
I think that's the piece. And that's, 150 years ago, I think women just did that. And in a lot of other cultures, that just happens. And I think there's something about the American experience of this fierce independence. And then, of course, this, right, the rugged individualism. That's perfect. And then also this myth of the superwoman or the supermom.
Yeah.
We can do it all. We can have it all. And I was saying that, and, my mom, that's her quote, yes, we can have it all, just not all at once, not all at the same time. And so looking at helping moms pace themselves, looking at saying we don't have to do it all. You don't have to go back to work so quickly if you don't want to. We can look at alternatives here. You don't have to do every class for your child at this time. You don't have to read every single book. It's just this whole concept of how can we help structure it in a way where it's sustainable. And I think both you and I hit those places. I know you had your health crisis, and I look back on, certain relationship things that really, if I had been investing more in myself and my own nurturing, might have been a lot smoother. And so that's what I'm trying to help women understand now, is that, if you don't put that effort in when your children are very young, you're going to pay the price further along. And I think Kimberly Ann Johnson in her book, The Fourth Trimester, really talks about that. She talks about the 40 days after birth. And I know we've discussed this, correlating with the next 40 years of a woman's overall health. And so if we look at it that way, oh my goodness, 40 days after we give birth is not that much time when you look at it in comparison with your physical health for the next 40 years. We look at sort of emotional health. If we can put that in and front load it when we're pregnant, when our children are very little, we get the support that we need. We won't be having these body breakdowns or emotional breakdowns as our children are getting older. And I know you've also spoken so beautifully about the fact that the time that you put in with your children when they were young is really paying off in the teen years. And I know I certainly feel that with my family as well, that we just were there for them and that we were together as a family and we were investing in our family time, and it has paid off so beautifully.
And that's the beauty of attachment parenting, which I think, we will have an attachment parenting expert on next season to discuss that, about what is attachment parenting and why. I truly do believe it's kind of that secret sauce that allows you to have full relationships with your teenagers. I really believe
Yeah.
that trust was established early on, that trust is still there. And so, and I'm
Well,
living that right now. So.
yeah. And you were talking about Dr. Shivali Savari saying that she was working with all of these adults who had all of these childhood wounds. I mean, I don't know a single adult that doesn't have some story from their childhood about needs that weren't met or things that happened that were minor or major traumas. I mean, we're all working through stuff. And so obviously we can't protect our children from everything, but we can help them process it in a way that I think is very different from the past few generations, or even maybe, all the past generations, when we really look at the healing that can be done. And so taking into account this idea of really healing as a whole humanity, that's where we are right now. And that's, I think, our task is to really help wake everyone up to this idea of changing the way we're doing things.
Yeah, I came up with a saying about 2 weeks ago, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I really like this. And it's called, it's just grace and space, and it's just in parenting of really giving yourself the grace and then giving yourself the space to be, and that's, I kind of feel like it's a little bit of like Dr. Shefali. It's a little bit, of kind of things that I have learned along the way. But it's just if you can kind of keep saying that. I say it to my children when they're having their squabbles amongst each other, like, kiddos, just give yourself a little bit of grace and a little bit of space, and and then come back to this, because it's really, we're all in this together, and that's kind of what we're talking about today. It's just, it's humanity. It's we are all, at some point or another, we're all in the struggle. We're all, we're doing the best we can. Let's give each other that space to know that we are all trying as hard as we can. And just sometimes we can't do it. So they give that grace and then give that space.
I love that, Sheila. Sheila Walsh Dunton, grace and space.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
On t-shirts, right?
There we go. Yeah. And also that to have that forgiveness for ourselves as well. Yes, nobody's perfect. And also, our parents, our grandparents, everybody was doing the best they could at the time with the tools that they had, with the upbringing that they had, with the things that they got or that they didn't get, with the needs that were met or were unmet. I'm reading a book right now. It's a woman who grew up in eastern Montana, pretty bleak, and she's talking about her childhood. But they were doing the best they could with what they had and what they knew. Yeah. And so it's just an interesting one. But now we have these possibilities for looking at it differently. But I love that space, grace and space. And apply that to the rest of my day.
Yeah, right. I feel like it's a good mantra, and it's funny how it came to me. I was my husband and my daughter kind of having a disagreement, and just really kind of looking at it from, definitely if it was me, and then I wouldn't have come up with it, but seeing it from afar, it was both of them needing to just give the other person, hey, you guys both tried to meet someplace, it didn't work. So if we gave each other a little bit of space and realized that you were both trying to do the same thing with a little bit of grace, then hey, we'll be okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Oh, so winding down 30 episodes of the Moms I Know. It's very exciting. And I feel as if both of us, it's the beginning of a new year, but we're also both in this place of kind of a little bit of overwhelm. And I think even just talking today to each other and to all of you on the podcast, it's definitely helps.
It's our own medicine.
I know.
Just what we're talking about. It's just what I needed, Maria.
Right.
Today I made a few friends, and I'm like, okay, I see myself climbing up out of this. And I was sick last week, but I'm doing better. And yeah, and that's what it is. You just got to give yourself a little bit of space.
Right. Well, with that, we're going to be taking a little space for a week or so, but we're going to be coming together and doing a lot of new episodes in our second season. We're going to be doing lots of interviews with some really amazing thought leaders and amazing moms that we know. So we're looking forward to being with all of you again very, very soon. And in the meantime, we hope that you will check out our offerings at the Mom Map and SoCalEssentials.com. And so until we chat again,
We'll see you next time on The Moms I Know.
Thanks for joining us today for The Moms I Know. To learn more about Sheila and her online program, The Mom Map, visit purplebeetnutrition.com. For Maria's monthly blog and to learn more about her group programs and retreats, visit SoCalEssentials.com. That's SOQUEL Essentials.com. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of The Moms I Know. Until next week, have a joyful family journey.